Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to probably the final iteration of the budget build guide for the intelligence and accuracy stacker. The build is now at 2500 intelligence and we just got just above 100,000 accuracy on a budget of around 75 to 100 divines, depending on if you craft your gear yourself, if you get lucky, if you're patient with getting gear. So 100 div should be the upper end. And yeah, I just want to go over the gear once more, the changes I've made to get to this level. This should be now around 120 million DPS. So that's 5 times more than in the last video, around 4 to 5 times more. Yeah, and I just want to show off how I got there. And then I'll also show another fortress map again, like I did last time, just to see the difference. And I'll also show a feared to really show the damage. Yeah, so first of all, what has changed from the last version? The most important thing that has changed is the tincture. Before I used a different tincture, I used this one, and yeah, you see the mods on here, it's tier 4, tier 3, and only increased effect instead of the increased mana burn rate. And if I open up Path of Building real quick, you can see that just the change from the tincture alone is getting me around 30% more damage compared to the old one. So this change, I think the tinctures are around 4 divines if you would straight up buy it right now. Let's check. Yeah, that's like 4 divines, 3 divines even if you would go ahead and buy the tincture right now. I got pretty lucky alteration spamming, so I just did that myself for very cheap. But if you buy it, 3 divines should be your very first upgrade. I always kind of undervalued this, but especially for bossing damage, for burst damage, this is insane. And also on phased bosses, you have the 8-second cooldown of this, but usually the phases are longer than 8 seconds, so you can always burst the boss down with this tincture. Very good. In this iteration of the build, I have now also included the Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flash, since this is still the double damage upgrade for Flicker Strike, and the price has calmed down a little bit again, so now you can see 25 divine, maybe say 30 divine if the prices should go up a little again, but this is still double damage, the best upgrade you can get, and also value-wise next to the tincture. Then I've also upgraded some of the clusters. Last video I've talked about using just the trade link to look for some clusters, so all attributes, intelligence, increased effect. These are still not perfect clusters. They're halfway decent. They are 3 out of 4 mods, and you can usually get these for around 7 divines. I can pull up the trade link here again. Let's see where I have it. Did I just, yeah, it's this one. There you can see I had the trade link in the last Path of Building already. You want 2 mods out of these. You want either increased attack damage while dual wielding or increased claw damage, and you really want always int on there and at least 11 passives. You can see those can usually be had for 7 divines. Sometimes you can find them on the cheap. I bought mine for 2 divines each. But just because I was patient, I saw them, then I bought them. Usually they're around 7 divines. Next up, I made a small change to the skill tree. I went out of the Arcing Blows node right here in favor of the Mark the Prey node, especially to get frenzy charges. Because 3 frenzy charges at 4% more damage per frenzy charge is 12% more damage. So this is just more damage than this node. And especially if we combine this with +1 maximum frenzy charge Shaper's Touch, that gets us at to 4 frenzy charges, so that is 16% more damage. And as you can see right now, these are cheap. So you can get these for 10 chaos. That's even cheaper than an uncorrupted pair. And again, that's just 4% more damage basically for free compared to non-corrupted gloves. Yeah, last skill tree change I've made is getting a different Watcher's Eye. Before I was just running a reduced mana cost of non-channeling skills Watcher's Eye while affected by clarity. I've changed this out for a crit multi while affected by precision. What does this again, I believe gets us like 6% more damage. This might even get beaten out. Let's check that. So this is hit DPS plus 5.9%. This might actually, this is plus 7.1, might actually get beaten out by a well-rolled rare jewel, but these are usually around 1 divine, and they also increase the energy shield, so this is a good alternative. That's why I have that in here as well. Then there was one very, very large change I've made, and that is switching to a Eyes of Greatwolf. I have POB'd that change before, so usually we had the Astramentus there, and this was before just like a 4 or 5% damage increase or more damage, but that was because I haven't changed my rings. It is only worth changing to the Eyes of the Greatwolf if you also change to rings that give you much more flat intelligence. These rings are kind of a pain in the ass to get because you have to get a lot of res on your rings. I've always talked about it. Getting res capped on this build is kind of hard, so I'm barely res capped, and I have all res and cold res on this ring, and I have lots of fire res and a little bit cold res on this one. What you're looking for on these rings is just flat intelligence as much as you can get, and enough res to get res capped. But just these rings combined with the Eyes of the Greatwolf, that's what gets us this much intelligence. That's what gets us to this 2500 int. So this is basically the next best change you can get. The Eyes of the Greatwolf can be rather expensive, so we are only interested in the increased attributes. If you can find one with another good mod, that's fine, but not really needed. This one I have right here is, expensive because it's the max roll, and I've used tainted, what are they called? Tainted catalysts to get the 20%. So I got very lucky on that one. Again, 38% here is not needed. You can also go lower, I believe. Oh no, I don't have it anymore. Anything above like 32% is enough. So yeah, that's just to throw it out there. 38% is perfect, but anything lower is great as well. And I believe, let me pull that up again. These can be had for as low as, low in quotations, as 8 divines. You can get 36%. You can of course go a little lower, and I think 32 should be like 2-3 divine. Yeah. So these still get them while they're still cheap. They might go up in price because they're just very good and best in slot until you would get a simplex amulet. I can show that in here again as well. If you get this amulet, that's already, let's see, much more damage than the Astramentus. That's like 10% more damage than an Astramentus getting this. Yeah, exactly 10%. But again, getting a simplex amulet would be still another 45%, yeah, 47% increased damage upgrade. But since simplex is 300 divine, and that's 3 times as much as the rest of the build, just get the Eyes of the Greatwolf and you will be fine for now. Then one last thing, or not last, but one more thing, is don't forget to get +1 or more gem levels. If you, for example, get a Flicker Strike of Power level 2120, that is also 4% more damage compared to a normal Flicker Strike of Power 2020. These are, I believe, like 3 to 4 divine. But again, all this small percent more damage stacks. So getting this amulet 10% more damage, getting Flicker Strike of Power 4% more damage, then 21 multi-strike another 2% more damage, a level 21 precision another 2% more damage, and all of a sudden with these changes you are at like 20% more damage. So yeah, don't underestimate the value of the plus gem levels, and especially on Flicker Strike, multi-strike, and precision. These are the best ones basically to get the additional gem level on. Then lastly, I've made another big change to the Spectre. I am using the Perfect Primal Thunderbird, I believe it's called. Let me pull up my trusty PoE trait again. Yeah, here they are. The Thunderbirds are around 10 chaos, 20 chaos apiece. And what these do is they give you grace. That is the important part. This means that we can basically drop grace in our setup and instead go for discipline. I have a level 21 discipline here. And you can see this one gives me like, is that 1,500 more energy shield. So just worthwhile getting. And also this frees up enough mana to use Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor is a buff or a skill that gets you less damage taken while you are stationary. And interestingly enough, using Flicker Strike counts as being stationary. So while you do not press left click to move, but just hold right click to actually deal damage, once you do that, you count as stationary and benefit from this less physical and less fire damage taken buff. Yeah, I think that's been all the big changes in the build. Yeah, oh no, I also upgraded my armor, but the only things that have changed there is this one has 100 more flat energy shield. I saw this on trade for 60 chaos, so I swooped it up. 100 flat energy shield is great. And I've also rolled the Eat of Worlds Implicit with the Grant currency to get less damage taken per 210 intelligence instead of 230, because after 2,520 intelligence, this gets us exactly 12% less damage taken, which is up from 9% less damage taken from the other armor that we had. So that's 3% more less damage taken. More or less, that sounded kind of weird. And I've also changed my helmet, but this was mainly for res reasons. This also has a increased accuracy roll on there. That really doesn't do a lot for us. So this one is not worth getting. It was just nice that it was on there. I was mainly gunning for the higher lightning res rolls to be able to fit the new rings in. So again, if you upgrade to the Eyes of the Greatwolf, getting the rings, balancing your res is a pain. Always remember that you can use the Harvest Bench to swap res around. I did exactly that on the boots because I needed more lightning res, just a little bit, and didn't need as much chaos res, cold res, I mean. So you can always roll those around. Then also, because we need so much res, it's sadly not really possible to get Tailwind on the boots while also having this much res, because Tailwind is a suffix that would take away from either int or one of the res rolls. So Tailwind would only be possible if you get really good rings that get you more elemental rings, res. Talking about the rings, I have a search. I'll also put that in the POB again. The sets that you're looking for, of course, is more intelligence, flat intelligence, and some res. And I've also put some of the negative mods in here. So the way you can search for it is you can say, I do not want dexterity to be maximum, minimum -10, for example. And then you will not see any reflected rings that have negative dex rolled. You then have to look through these. Sometimes they still have mods that you don't really like, but for example, reduced mana regeneration. This will probably just feel bad. If you find any mod that you don't like, you can just input it into the search as well and filter those out as well. And apart from that, you just want to look for rings that kind of fix your specific res problems. This is incredibly tedious, and you can work a lot with POB to check if they really res cap you and whatnot, because you don't want to make an expensive mistake, buy a 2 divine ring, and then it doesn't really fit you. My rings were, this one was 60 chaos. It gives me negative dex. This is kind of bad. I'm still trying to look for an upgrade, but again, hard to get. This one was 1 divine with not really any downside for me at all. So yeah, that's the upgrades. Next, I guess I will just jump into a feared. I have a rolled here. Monsters have some more life, increased life, whatever. No detrimental mod to me. No reflect, no steel charges, no life leech. So yeah, let's just check that out. I still haven't fixed my power charge problem that I sometimes had, that I lose my charges, but I guess that's a problem for another time. You can see, even with my not incredible playstyle. I don't really dodge a lot of the things here. Oh, this one I should dodge. Yeah. The build can tank a lot, but it can't tank everything, especially while I try to talk when playing. That is really detrimental to me. Not good at that. I think we just have Cyrus left. Everlasting fire. Wah. Press my Tincture, that's a lot of more damage. Alright, so yeah, we died once here. Due to mainly a skill issue, me not being able to talk and play at the same time. Let's see if anything is hidden. Ah, yeah, that's good. All right, yeah, that's the Feared. Yeah, as you can see, that wasn't really a problem. With a little bit more skill and less talking, you can dodge that. Next up, I'll just do a tier 17 map. I think I still have my Maven skill tree on. No, that's not Maven. That's a Harvest skill tree. Anyways. I don't usually run tier 17s because I don't really enjoy them, but I guess they are important to a lot of people, so we will try it out. At this budget, I'll only show Flicker Strike now, because since using the double damage jewels, it's kind of, in quotations, optimized for Flicker. Also, Arctic Armor is good for Flicker. Oh, didn't expect to die there. Yeah, Arctic Armor is also good for Flicker. That's nothing you really gain a big advantage from with Lightning Strike. I mean, while attacking, you're still stationary with Lightning Strike, but Flicker, you are, I guess, a little more stationary. Let's place a portal there in case I die even more. Let's see. So this already looked a lot better than last time. Still died on here, don't really know what hit me there. Here are the map mods again. We had some elemental weakness on us. Yeah, I think those were actually quite easy mods, I think. Anyway, we got 2 decaying fragments. I think those are just 10C each. Wasn't really worth it. Yeah, apart from that, let me think. I will quickly show the path of building again. Just to give you some options. So in here, I myself, so this is right now a level 99 path of building. I myself am only level 97. So what I am skipping right now are these nodes. So my damage is just at 100 million. Because usually, especially when doing phased bosses, I am not, like, they're just phased after 3 seconds. So I can't even keep up my rage. So this is kind of useless, these 2 nodes. So if you're low level, if you're just level 97, for example, skip those nodes. Then I also have this node, for example, skilled. So now we're just level 96. And apart from that, one thing I want to say is if you are much lower level than 96, if you're like 85 or so, what you can do in the very beginning is you can skip this cluster jewel and instead path along this path. So we just put all of this here away. So this would be, for example, level 86. And you see, of course, this is much less damage, but this is kind of how I would path if you're level 86. So if you're below level 90, skip this one cluster jewel, go this way, just because this one node gives you also some more int. That's kind of nice. If you have good clusters, you don't have to take this node. So for example, this gets me to 73 million, while taking a node here would just get me 72. This one would get me 73 also. So here it would be for me worth to go in here. For you, maybe if you have worse clusters, this node might be worth taking. Then I think that's mainly it. You can also try, like, if you have more skill points, if you, for example, in general don't want to go for the rage, you can also go for the +1 power charge. This is just generic 5% more damage. Might be able to solve your sustain a little with the charges that you don't run out. And yeah, anything I haven't talked about mostly stayed the same from last time. I've left some of the other items in here. So again, if you want to see what different jewels look like, or I mean amulets, you can try that out. For example, I was also curious how well an amulet would be with increased attributes, increased int, and damage per 15 int compared to an Eyes of the Greatwolf. You can see those are just worse, so that would be 8% less damage than the Eyes of the Greatwolf. So that meant to me the Greatwolf is a little better. One more tip is you can change the split personality. I have always been using the intelligence accuracy ones, but you can see changing to a dexterity intelligence one. These I believe are just 10 chaos right now. The others are like 200 or 400 chaos. These are 5 chaos, and the hit DPS goes down 0.6% per jewel. So if you want to save like 4 or 5 divines, take these ones instead. You have 1% less damage, which is still completely fine. All right, and then I believe this is really it. Again, I think this is the last update for the build, just because after this point, now the next upgrades would be all those expensive 60 divine jewels, or especially the simplex amulet. So now the upgrades get really big, and at that point, you can't really call it a budget build anymore. I believe even at 100 divines, it's not really a budget build, but it's still budget compared to a multi-mirror build. And again, I believe like 12,000 energy shields around 100 million DPS should be good enough to do most content. I had a lot of fun with this build and making these videos. Next up, I'll probably try to build an auto bomber again. I always have a great affinity for Herald of Thunder auto bombers. Those are always bad and never worth the investment, but they're fun to play. So yeah, if you want to see that, stay tuned. Maybe there will be an update on one of those builds next time. Thank you again for listening to my rambling, and yeah, hope I'll see you next time again. Bye bye.